Now remember here some time back, we had a gentleman that was on conference line. He was explaining on how they created case law. Some judge, some politician wants some law created. They would go out and pick up some guy off the street that could not defend himself. They would give him a public defender. They would do a trumped-up charge, and they would go back in, and they would redefine words, and they would use this man as a sample. After building several different cases up on this, they now have case law. So by going in and redefining certain words to have certain meanings, this is where the problem comes in at. Now, I've got several different law books and dictionaries here at the house. All right, I want to read here out of Law Dictionary, Legal Guide, Barron's. A natural person, a human being, as opposed to an artificial or fictional person, such as a corporation. The phrase natural person does not include corporation, an entity, but the phrase person without qualifying may or may not include an artificial person depending on the context. Thus the phrase no person in the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause has been held to include natural and artificial people. But the same phrase, no person, in the Fifth Amendment Privilege Against Self-Incrimination Clause has been held to include any natural and not corporation, since the privilege is personal and may not assert by an artificial person. Businesses' premises are protected from unreasonable search and seizures, and corporations do enjoy 14th Amendment rights. Right here we have a definition of what a natural person is, how a natural person is defined. This is where the problem's coming in at. A lot of people have been right. It's all in the definitions of words, but not to the extent of what we have been taught or what we are being led to believe through some of these groups out here that the attorneys have infiltrated and are sitting here brainwashing and misleading the people into a rabbit trail. Now, out of the same legal book, person, in law, an individual, or an incorporated group having certain legal rights and responsibilities. This has been held to include foreign and domestic corporations. Precision definitions of the term has been necessary for purposes of assertment, due to whom the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution is protected, that the amendment expressly applies to persons compared to natural persons. But we go back and see on how the legal system, the bar people, are going in and rewriting definitions of words. So when we're going into these courtrooms, we're going in under a pretext of fraud, because when they defined a corporation as a person and a person as a corporation, they are mixing the words together. Up until this point in time, we never knew how they defined the term corporation. We have never been able to find it. We knew, and people talked about it, but we was never able to go back in and make the issue on how they defined a corporation. People, now we can. Now when we walk into these courtrooms, we have every right to sit back. Tell that guy on the bench that because he is a corporation as defined under Dun and Bradstreet, and he is a corporation as defined under Eddie Andrews versus United States XRL out of 10th Circuit Court. The 10th Circuit Court went back in and classified every public official as a corporation. We now have the proof and the fraud of how they've been railroading us. Any child that they have taken out of your possession, any of these public officials, child services, the courts, when they stole that child, that is child kidnapping. They had no legal right to take that child because that child is not part of the corporation. They're only doing it because of the way they worded the words to define a corporation. They used the term corporation, they used the term person, and they interchanged these two words. That's how they're committing the fraud on us. These people have